Good morning. Good morning to everyone who is here this morning. I hope you had a wonderful week. Wouldn't have figured that out in 100 years, Francie. YouTube is look. That's 7 steps just to change your name, and they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy at all. You would think it'd be able to just log into your thing and click one thing, and it would bring up customize your name or your channel. No, no and it used to be that way. It was actually 2 steps, but now it's 7 because they keep on burying things behind more and more things that where you have to go through. But that's the way that they do it. Good morning to you, Pippa Dot. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. We had a lot of kids show up for trick or treating last night. We have no idea where these kids came from. In our entire community, there are probably maybe 30 kids who live in the entire community, and we had an excess of 80 kids show up last night. We don't know where they came from. Didn't really care. We had candy, and gave it out to them. Didn't matter if they were, young, old. There were some adults that were dressed up, in costumes as well. A lot of people walking their dogs along with, doing the trick or treating. That was cool to see. Neighbors I don't see, but maybe that live across the street from me. I see them coming and going, but I never get to see them or talk to them personally. And there's a couple that that are law enforcement. I only see them once in a great moon, or I see their squad car parked in the front of their house or in the driveway, but I never get to see them or talk to them. Got to see and talk to them last night, so that was cool. My Halloween was quiet. Plus, I have to do. I have a do not knock poster. Oh yeah, we had there were definitely excess of 80 kids. I don't know if every kid in the neighborhood invited a couple of friends. I mean, in our entire community, I live in a gated community, so these kids couldn't have like driven in to the community unless they were they checked in at the guard shack. But yeah, we had a lot. We had at one point last night, we probably had 15, 20. They're all just in line up our sidewalk. And I'm just standing there going, what? Where'd they all come from? But it was nice to see it, especially the little kids. They're kind of like timid and scared, and they don't really get the idea of trick or treat that come up when they have a basket, their little bucket. I've seen a lot of kids who had the plastic. They were the Happy Meal buckets from McDonald's. A lot of kids had those. A lot of the older kids had like pillowcases and stuff like that. They were looking for the score. But we finally ended up handing out candy at about, I'd say 9:30, 9:45, somewhere in there. And we have a big, huge plastic cauldron. It was down to about 25% of the left of candy. And I just put it on the porch after that with a note that says, help yourself. And I woke up this morning, the cauldron was still there. And all the candy was gone though. So we had a huge amount of 39. Then another bowl came out. Last group was an hour. Good morning, Kitty Q and Zelda. Zelda, I really hope you're feeling better, sweetheart. I really do. If you all don't know what's happened to Zelda, Rags to Riches, go check out her YouTube channel. And while you're there, and watching her content, consider giving the Zelda, a thumbs up. Subscribe if you really like the content. But I really do hope that you're feeling better. Yeah, so I had bought candy at the store, at the grocery store, and let's just say that shrink inflation is a real thing. The candy, the bite size, the nibbler, whatever ones they have, small ones that they have, those have gotten smaller. They've gotten less in a bag, and the price went up. And it's just ridiculous. But yesterday, of all places, and I'm going to keep this, in mind. Yesterday, after I already bought the candy, I already filled the cauldron and everything else. I had to go pick up, prescriptions from the pharmacy, and we went to Walgreens. And Walgreens had, I guess they had bought out the Rite Aid stock, their inventory. So they had massive pallets of just candy and stuff like that. They were selling it at like 50% off just to get rid of it. And I picked up like 2 more bags, like 115 pieces, so 230 pieces. I'd love to go trick or treating, but I'm recovering from a broken neck. No candy for me. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Truly am. I'm praying for her too. And Larry, don't forget about Larry. Pray for Larry too. Larry is her husband who puts up with all of her intricacies. Great man. Remember to be on all messages or live and not top. That's true. All right, let's get this party started this morning. This is Page 2 News. This is the 280th episode of Page 2 News. Now with 3.25% less bunching and more sexiness. This morning's show and crime recap strictly adheres to the verified factual evidence and all information presented from sources from reputable agencies such as the FBI, DOJ, and when applicable, Interpol and Scotland Yard. We do not engage in the conspiracy theory, speculation, or unverified claims about what may have occurred. If you are looking for that type of content, this program may not be the right fit for you. Thank you for your understanding. It is 100% free to subscribe to this channel and content. 100% free to learn new facts about criminals. And it's also 100% free to be part of the community that is here to learn about this stuff, along with 100% free to take part in trivia on Sunday nights. What reason do you have not to subscribe? Oh, it won't go. There we go. I have no shout outs or anything to give this week to anyone that for supporting the content or channel memberships or anything else. Maybe check back next week and we'll have something to report there. New business is next. Arrest has been made in the Michael Monkey Vaughn missing child case out of Idaho. Michael Vaughn was 5 years old when he was taken from his Fruitland home on July 27th, 2021. A frantic search began as police scoured the area, but no sign of him anywhere. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and months eventually turned into years. Nearly a year and a half after his disappearance, the first significant break in the case came when Fruitland police began tearing apart and digging up the backyard of a home just a few blocks from where Michael first went missing. Police were digging for the remains after receiving a tip that he had been buried there. The home belonged to Stacy and Sarah Wandra. We would later learn through leaked police footage that Stacy was directing police via video call to where he claimed Sarah had buried the body of Michael Vaughn. Stacy and Sarah were suspects and for nearly 2 years by the Fruitland Police Department, and the probable cause was forwarded to the Fayette County Prosecutor's Office. Sarah Wandra was arrested and charged with crimes unrelated to the disappearance of Michael Vaughn. She has been serving a 3-year fixed sentence for aggravated assault. Fixed sentence means she has to do 100% of that 3 years. No good time deductions or any deductions off of the total sentence. That was part of her plea agreement. But again, she was serving 3 years for aggravated assault and other charges unrelated to the disappearance of Michael Monkey Vaughn. On October 31st, yesterday, Halloween, Stacy Wandra, age 33, was charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and first-degree destruction of evidence. If you wish to read more about Michael Monkey Vaughn, this is a great article and link that you can click on for the Idaho Statesman newspaper and online publication. In a nutshell, let's break down what happened. This is the Cliff Notes version of what happened to Michael Monkey Vaughn. Michael Monkey Vaughn was playing in his backyard, which is chain linked in all the way around the backyard. He was last seen in the backyard playing with a truck near his actual swing set, according to his mother. There is a gate that leads out the back to a wooded area, but that gate had an actual lock on it, so Michael could not get out that back gate. The only way for Michael to have gotten out of the backyard was coming back in through the house, or he removed one of the locks from the two gates. There's another one alongside the house. That would be the driveway side of the house. So it'd be the left-hand side if you're looking right at the house. Neither one of those locks were removed from the gate. So again, the third option would be that Michael somehow burrowed underneath the chain link fence. He had never done that previously, and they looked and they checked the entire perimeter of the fence, the field behind the house, and they could not find any signs that Michael had gone through any of the gates. This means that Michael had to be picked up and grabbed over the chain link fence in the backyard. Where do these people live? They live approximately 2 blocks away, the Wanderer family. It's about a quarter of a mile total distance. It's a rural area. It's not like an inner city where there's a block, there's house. There's their house. There's a giant field on the right side and the left side of the Vaughn family's home, and then it starts another block and more houses and then more fields. That's where they lived, was on towards the end of that second part. Why'd they do it? We don't know. I mean, it'd be pure speculation at this point to figure out why they did it. But lastly, when it comes to Michael Monkey Vaughn, they still do not have his remains. The Fruitland Police Department dug up the entire backyard, and cadaver dogs, hit on the same area that Sarah had said where the remains were, and so they know that Michael was buried there. But at some point, someone, most likely Stacy, dug up the remains of Michael and moved the remains somewhere else. At this point, I know that he's been charged with first-degree murder, destruction of evidence, and kidnapping. That's a life sentence in the state of Idaho, especially since both of them, Stacy and Stacy and both of them, have an extensive criminal history. So I would look at this point, the most likely outcome is they're going to give them some kind of plea deal. Tell us where the remains of Michael, Monkey Vaughn are, and we'll take the death penalty off the table in the state of Idaho. As sad as it is, that's probably the best outcome we can get. Is life without the possibility of parole. Take the death penalty away, but somehow get the remains of Michael back for the family so they can have some type of closure. If you've never, dealt with something like that, or seen, or known someone who's ever had to deal with that kind of an outcome, not having the remains of their loved one, to be able to bury them, to be able to say goodbye in a proper way. Yeah, I mean, you would never be able to understand how these people feel. You can empathize for them, but you'll never understand it completely. I can't understand it completely myself. I can't understand why anyone would want to hurt a child, let alone why they would do something like this. There's a lot of people online right now, and I've seen it. It started yesterday after I made the video, and probably beforehand, but I just didn't see them. A lot of people speculating why they did it. Was it revenge? Did they have some kind of grudge against the Vaughn family? That there is nothing in the police work, and I've been following this case since Michael, Monkey Vaughn disappeared, and there's nothing out there that says that these people had some kind of vendetta, or hell, there's not even any information that says that they really knew who they were. They may have passed each other in the small Fruitland, grocery store, or recognized each other's cars, but they certainly weren't friends at any point. So again, it'd be it's all speculation, at this point. But I do believe they'll probably offer a plea deal in this case to get the remains back and get, something like life without the possibility of parole. Because otherwise it is a death sentence. Is in particular because of the background, in criminal cases that both of them have. Well, we're praying for Larry, Zelda. Catch me if you can. Written in blood on the wall. Bryant was convicted of fatally shooting 3 people during a week-long burglary and killing spree in the fall of 2004 in rural Sumter County. He was 23 at the time. Which reported Bryant first killed his 36-year-old co-worker, Clifton Gainey, on October 9th of that year, and then burglarized his home. Yes, that's what this man looks like today, being led from court back to the jail. 2 days later, he killed 62-year-old Willard Tagent in his home. Yeah, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. Per the outlet, Tagent was fatally shot in his face and eyes, were also burned with cigarettes, according to WISTV. Bryant left notes written in blood on the wall of his home, one which was written in the victim's blood that said, "Catch me if you can." 2 days later, after killing that last one, a 62-year-old man, he killed 35-year-old Chris Burgess after meeting him at a convenience store. He confessed he killed him because I was bored and he looked at me wrong, with judgment in his eyes, end quote. There has already been a ruling in the stay of execution. The governor has said he will not issue one, and the execution will take place on November 14th this month, in 13 days, at approximately 10 a.m. They're going to execute him for what he did. Wanted by the U.S. Marshals and FBI is next. This is the same individual that I previewed last week, Craig Pearson. He is a wanted sex offender out of Hillsborough, New Hampshire. He is a Caucasian male with brown and gray hair, 6 foot tall. He weighs 195 to 205 pounds. He was born April 13th of 1983. He has blue eyes. The link there gives a better description about his charges and what he's wanted for by the U.S. Marshals. But the update is the following. The FBI wants citizens of the following states to be on alert, as they believe Craig Pearson may be living and working from a non-conventional location on the internet. Those states are Maine, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. They believe that he is traveling for work. That's why there are so many, that he is working in a non-conventional space, meaning he's not sitting in his home where he would have access to it. He's accessing the internet from either a hotspot in a coffee shop or the library or something along those lines, where they and additionally, he may be working in the contractor field or an apprentice, someone as a helper to somebody who is in the contracting field. He is also probably working with a social security number of a deceased male that he has been connected to, who he knows is deceased, and he is using that person's social security number. But they want, again, Maine, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. Again, look at his face. He is most likely on the internet right now. Craig Pearson, wanted by the U.S. Marshals and the FBI. Serial Killer Corner. The monsters we seek to uncover do not hide in the dark corners. They hide right next to us all, every day. Are there more bodies? Elaine Wernos. Sympathy for the devil is how he will get you. Elaine Wernos' background on her is she killed 7 men between 1989 and 1990. From the very first conviction of murder of Richard Mallory to the last murder, there has always been 4 other men who were murdered and found under the same circumstances. These men were found dead, either partially clothed or completely nude in a wooded area in and around where Elaine killed all of her victims. I want to confess to Richard Mallory that Richard Mallory did violently rape me, as I've told you, but these others did not. They only began to start, she said, in March of 1992, per the Clark County prosecuting attorney. She later said, per CNN, I killed those men, robbed them as cold as ice, and I would do it again. 2, there's no chance in keeping me alive or anything, because I'd kill again. I have hate crawling through my system. When asked about the 4 unnamed victims, she only said, I am sure they were evil like the others. I have no comment further than that. She took it to her grave. If she was the killer of these 4 men, back to Elaine Wernos and the 4 unidentified. They have been identified as an aspect that they have identified them to the point where they have notified their families. They're not just sitting, listed as John Doe number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the county, morgue. They have been buried. but they're not releasing their names because they do not wish to tip off in case these four men were killed by someone else. But they are linked to her because of the same MO, they were killed, the circumstances behind it, that may have been visiting prostitutes like Elaine was, a prostitute, and they were all killed the same way, So, but I mean, it almost 100% matches her, but she would never confess to it or admit to it. She just smiled and said, "I'm sure that they were evil men just like the others. I have no comment." That's all she would say about them. And even leading up to her death, they asked her again, "Is there anything about these four that you would like to tell us?" And she wouldn't say anything at all. So, did she kill them? We're not sure. But they're still working on it, and all four of those cases are still open and actively being investigated. They are chasing down possible leads to see are these four separate murders by four separate killers? Are they connected to each other? Were they killed, by Elaine? We don't know. World news. Do you know what's really going on? These are 100% factual news story with 10 plus independent sources for each and every one. I can't stress that because I got comments last week that a lot of it I said was the information on statistics came from one poll, one individual, the Gallup poll. Well, yeah, the Gallup poll was the last part that put all of the data together, but the data can still be found on multiple different websites and sources. I'm not relying on just one source. Again, whenever you see or hear bullshit, you have to call it out. Ignoring it only does more damage to everyone else. Because if you let a lie go without being called out, the next person who reads it is going to assume that it's real. And there is a thing in psychology, it's called confirmational bias. You hear something the first time, even if it's the absolute most ridiculous bullshit that you've ever heard in your life about a subject or someone, you will hear that in the back of your mind. You will always keep that piece of information. Wait a minute, somebody told me it was this, or you will start to self-judge the actual fact because you heard the absolute lie first. Again, don't shoot the messenger here. You can hate me if you want, but these are actual factual and with 10 independent sources, and not just from one political side or the other either. SNAP, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Who gets them? And who had the balls to say we need to turn up the pain dial when speaking about those receiving benefits? Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is who said that. We need to turn up the pain dial when speaking about punishing Americans in order to get the Democrats to fold on their efforts to protect and keep the Obama Affordable Health Care Act. That's exactly what he said at the podium with 5 other Republicans standing behind him. We need to turn up the pain dial when speaking about Americans who receive SNAP benefits. That's 42 million Americans who are affected as of today, who are either not going to get benefits or they're going to get partial benefits if their state is able to fund it in any way at all. Approximately 233,000 active duty and Guard reserve members rely on SNAP benefits. Active duty service members around 22,000 and 213,000 of Guard and reserve units, and approximately 1.2 million veterans who serve their country honorably are affected by not getting their SNAP benefits today. Approximately 6.5 million low-income adults ages 60 and older rely on SNAP benefits with an average monthly benefit of $188 for individuals. However, millions more eligible seniors are not enrolled in the program, with recent data suggesting 4.8 million older adults are not enrolled. These seniors rely on food banks, which the current administration has already cut 500 million from in the past 10 months. Who else is affected by how much and do these freeloaders get per month? The average person, the APP, is $188.15 per month. It's adjusted dependent upon the cost of living in your area. You may be getting more, you may be getting less, but the average is again $188.15. That breaks down to $6.27 to feed an individual per day, or $2.09 per meal. I don't know about you, but I have to feed my family. I can't feed my family on $2.09 a day. 2.6 million school teachers who teach K through 6 depend on SNAP benefits programs to feed themselves. These are the people you want in charge of, the education for your children. So not only are the children going to go hungry, there's a very good likelihood that the teacher themselves is right now struggling and has, issues with trying to find ways to feed themselves. Freeloader, that's not my word. That is how Newsmax and Fox and Friends refer to people on the SNAP program and WIC. That is, WIC program is food for mothers who are pregnant or have newborns. So don't get pissed at me. They're also, both of them, started talking about what they call the welfare queen, the single mother who has 2 to 4 children, who is just sucking on the tit of society, for the SNAP benefits. They start talking about that. We haven't heard that since the late 80s, early 90s, the welfare queen stories. But they're trying to demonize those who are on SNAP benefits, and it's disgusting. Effective November 2nd, additionally, this is not a SNAP program, but they receive funding from the SNAP program for nutritional services for outreach program for children under the age of 12, who will be 100% suspended on the 2nd. That is tomorrow. Even if the government shutdown ends by November 9th, these programs will not receive the necessary funding to operate. As a result, efforts to address food insecurity among inner city children during school breaks and holidays. Ask yourself, is this what we really want? To severely impact children's health and wellness, school lunch programs in 21 states will also be cut back. Additionally, free lunch programs and reduced lunch programs will be ended or scaled back drastically. How to find out if your healthcare premiums are going up by law. If you got your healthcare through the ACA exchange, you can log in right now and see how much more they're going up. Why am I putting that part in there? Because that's why the Democrats are refusing to, go along with what the Republicans want. The Democrats want to keep the ACA and the government subsidies for the premiums, to keep premiums low and keep health care for millions of Americans. The Republicans don't want you to have that. They want to get rid of that altogether, that they already stripped through the big, beautiful bill. And they were expired yesterday at midnight. So they don't want that anymore. If you got your health care through the ACA, log into the ACA right now, where you got the exchange, where you got your health care from. I guarantee with my life, your premiums went up. I'm not shitting you at all. Some people are seeing double, tripling, or quadruplings of their premiums right now. And that's what the healthcare, industry is doing. That's why people are rallying around people like, Mangione, Luigi Mangione or whatever his name is, because he killed the healthcare, CEO of United Healthcare. Because we're sick and tired of watching premiums just keep on going up, and then they give you less and less benefits on the back end, or they deny services. People are frustrated as hell, and that's what the Democrats want. They want to keep that, and the Republicans want to get rid of it. But right now, by law, on today, you can log on and see what your healthcare premiums through the ACA are going to be. Again, why do I guarantee it with my life? Because every single Republican-backed healthcare system that is part of the ACA has already publicly said that they're raising their premiums. Every single one. There's 31, 32 different healthcare companies that offer some type of program through the ACA, and every single one of them said, "Yeah, we're raising our rates." Why wouldn't they? And think about it. What benefit do they have to raise, to lower them later on? Because even if the shutdown ends and we fix all this, with the food insecurity, and we restore the SNAP programs and school lunch programs, why would the healthcare industry, those companies, why would they want to lower their premiums? They've already got you paying them, and if you can't pay them, so what? They don't care. They don't. All they're in business for is to make money for themselves and for their stockholders. That's the only reason why they're in business. It's every insurance is the same way. Your auto insurance, your home insurance, your health insurance. They don't want to pay money out. They want to keep your money, line their pockets, and then deny services. And you have to pray that they actually, the government or somebody holds them to it. But when you let them just do whatever the hell they want, you get what you get. If you don't bother to stand up and say enough is enough. I know you're going to hate me for what I have to say. Yeah, go ahead and click on that unsubscribe button now. But I'm telling you the actual truth. When you see bullshit, and things like this where people are using the welfare of 42 million Americans and their well-being and their health against the other party because they want to punish them, and then they publicly come out and say that we want to punish our political enemies and we want to punish the men and women, the hardworking Americans who are out there, because hey, look, we're going to take the food away from the soldiers. We're going to take it away from the school teachers. We're going to take it away from the single mother who's just trying to survive, put food on the table. If we're willing to do that and cast them all aside, why would they not want to do it to you? Why would they not want to do it to me? That's bullshit. And when you see it, you have to call it out, because ignoring it, again, it's just going to do more harm than good. You think that my reporting is unbalanced? Go ahead and click on the link there and tell me how it is unbalanced. Please put in the description of your email why you are emailing me at 411now@gmail.com. And now for something completely different. This is a test. The following is a test. And it's the new feature I'm trying out. I'm hoping that it works. But if it doesn't, oh, then hell. I guess I'll try something else next week. Right now, on your screen, you should see the FBI says shooter in deadly Michigan church attack was motivated by hatred towards the Mormon faith, is what you should be seeing on your screen right now. Out of Lansing, Michigan, according to the Associated Press, former Marine who opened fire in a Michigan church and set it ablaze in September was motivated by anti-religious beliefs against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the FBI confirmed on Friday, yesterday. While friends of the gunman in the deadly shooting have said he harbored hatred for what is widely known as the Mormon Church, the FBI had previously declined to specify the motive behind the attack that left 4 dead and church burned to the ground, except to say it was a targeted act of violence. The gunman, Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, was killed by law enforcement responding to the shooting. I can confirm this is a targeted act of violence believed to be motivated by the assailant's anti-religious beliefs against the Mormon Church community, said Jennifer Runyon, special agent in charge of the FBI Detroit field office, said in a pre-recorded video message. The agency declined to share further information on what led to this conclusion. Sanford drove his pickup truck into the side of the Latter-day Saints Chapel in Grand Blanc Township, 60 miles or 80 kilometers northeast of Detroit on Sunday, September 28th, and began shooting at the congregation. Authorities have said he used gasoline as an accelerant to light the church on fire. Body cam footage released by the Grand Blanc Township Police shows an officer yelling, "Drop the gun, drop the gun, drop it now." One of the officers tells another, "I've got your back. Back here, man. Yeah, stay there. Shoot him." The FBI said that 9 people were injured in the attack. The previously official count had been 8. During our investigation, an additional individual was determined to be injured during the Grand Blanc critical incident, spokesman said in a statement. You should have seen all of what I just read live on your screen. There was no audio of it other than me reading what the outcome was. We'll see if this worked, and how it formatted to the page, but I hope it worked out good. Because I'd like to add it to future, Saturday mornings. Tomorrow, Sunday night, our trivia night that we play every single Sunday, again, here live on YouTube. Tomorrow night's trivia subject is the Amityville Horror. All the questions are about the Amityville Horror, not the haunting, the actual crimes that took place in the Amityville home. To be clear, I received a message about that. Are these about the horror, the haunting of the home? No, it's about the crime that were committed in the home. The Defoes. That's all the trivia questions are on tomorrow. And good morning, Mike Stevens. Sorry I didn't see you earlier. I hope that you had a great week. Thank you for being here this morning. Scrolling. The government doesn't care about the poor. That's true, Mike. The government doesn't give a shit about any of us. The days of those who were, governing for for their constituents, they're long gone. I'm sorry to say, but super PACs and lobbyists and special interest groups have bought every single level of governance in America, from your city council all the way up to your state representatives, to the Senate, to the White House. They're all bought and paid for by special interests. And I mean, think about it. If you were in the same position, wouldn't you take that money too? There hasn't been a single senator or state representative that has left office in the last 50 years. 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, that has left office, not a millionaire. They could be dirt broke getting into office, but they all leave as millionaires. House of Representatives and Senate, every single one. And now we're getting a little, they're pulling back the curtain on some of the things that the United States Supreme Court, justices have received. Everything from, $250,000 tour bus RV to free planes and trips and hotel rooms around the world. They're getting these from special interest groups and individuals who are acting on behalf of special interest groups. It's all bought and paid for. And I sit back and I wonder to myself, what kind of world it will be here when my son, is 18 in 9 years from now? What kind of world are we going to have? Because we're not going to protect the vulnerable. We're not going to protect the seniors, the veterans, and those who have special needs. We're just going to toss them all aside. When you have a president who stands up and says, the people with autism are never going to amount to anything, even though it's complete bullshit, they say it, they believe it. Scary times we live in. Things are only going to get worse. People are sick of what is happening in our country. They are, to some extent, Zelda, but a lot of people are also keeping their head down and just trying to move on and just work every day and trying to survive. They don't have the time, the energy, the fight in them to put up with it. And that's exactly what those in charge want. They don't want you to fight back. They don't want you to question them. Again, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not an independent. I'm not a Tea Party, believer or holder or part of that. I believe in voting for the person that I will do the best job for that position. I'm not liberal, although I get called a liberal commie constantly online. I'm not. I see bullshit. I call it out. If the fucking Democrats were doing this stupid shit right now, I'd be calling them out on it. And when you want to look at corruption, in America in politics, go watch the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk from the other day. He puts it very, very clearly, just how much corruption there is, and buying off of politicians from one party to the other, and neither party has clean hands. I strongly disagree with his percentages because he's obviously, biased, but he's absolutely right though on, the actual evidence that's out there. But people don't want to see it. They don't want to know it. You're a conservative Republican, voted for Trump every time, but I'm shocked at several things he's done. I'm surprised that and shocked by the fact, Mike, that more people are not standing up for the 42 million Americans right now who lost their benefits as of this morning. Why were they not standing up, and fighting for? We took $500 million away from food banks, across America. 500 million. They work on donations, and what money they do get buys, for the things, and fills in the gaps for what's not donated to them, and to pay for gas and for electricity and stuff like that. That's all the money goes for. They don't pay their staff any money, but because they're all volunteers. But when you take 500 million away from a nonprofit organization like, your Second Harvest food banks, your local food pantry for your city, when you take money away from that, that really hits home to a lot of people, and a lot of people who rely upon those programs to just get by, to survive. And I hate to break the bad news to you, ladies and gentlemen, but you can look at the entire thing like this. You take away people's food insecurities, you're going to get more crime. With that crime, you're going to get more protests, more outrage on the streets from the people who are being affected. And you know what that does? That plays right into deployment of the National Guard and active duty troops into your inner cities, because that's exactly the game plan that is already there. At first, it was, well, you're rounding up Americans and deporting them, or you're illegally, grabbing anyone off the street and deporting them. That was the outrage at the ICE, facilities. Well, we got to send in the National Guard to protect the ICE, facilities and the ICE officers, which is illegal because border for when it comes to ICE, they're not allowed to legally operate anywhere within 100 miles, more than 100 miles in from the border of any part of the country. But you see them in Chicago, you see them in Detroit, you see them in Iowa. Why? Because they can. Because he's federalized, them, and along with people who are, well, they're not even law enforcement, earn up to $50,000 a year college credits and nothing, no background checks, at very little if at all. We'll give you a gun and make you a border, patrol officer. You work for ICE. I see the commercials constantly, and they've already kicked people out who they know. One guy was in prison for murder, and he became an ICE officer. The only reason why he was kicked out of the ICE was because he failed the background check for the gun that he already had. They already gave him a gun and put him out on the streets with other ICE officers, and he failed that background check when it finally came in within 14 days or whatever it was. But he'd already gotten all the uniform, was out there, marching around with the rest of them, doing whatever the hell he wanted. And then he failed the background check, and they're like, maybe you're not an ICE officer after all. Yeah. Nope. Well, Zelda, I never received any training, when I was in the service to be a police officer. I mean, I took an oath to the Constitution, to uphold the Constitution, and protect this country against all foreign, and domestic, enemies. I mean, we anybody in the service took that, but they only told me anything about, here study the Constitution. I studied my general orders, and knew them like the back of my hand. Well, I'm potentially about to lose my disability benefits. I'm waiting to see if the UK government still award me, as I have to reapply every 4 years. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I hope it goes through without any issues. We've been asked, me and my wife, at least twice a year, every year since my son was diagnosed with autism, to put him on or get him signed up for disability benefits. We never have. We refuse to label our son as disabled in the eyes of the government, because we don't see autism, and other things like that as a disability. It's a barrier, and you have a barrier. You don't have a disability. You have a barrier. We all have barriers. I hate spelling. I'm terrible at spelling. Y'all don't want to read half of what I write without, spell check. I'm terrible at it. That's my barrier in life. I can't spell. Well, I can't spell, but I hate it. I have to I look at words sometimes. I'm like, what the hell? Is that the right there? Is that the word right where? Is that where or where? This is what goes on in my head. But that's my barrier. There are people who can't do math. I mean, Albert Einstein couldn't find his own way home if he had to. He was thinking on a completely different level, and he couldn't figure out how to get home. He couldn't balance his checkbook. If you asked him, how much, Here's a simple equation on how much you have in the bank. Einstein couldn't tell you how to do that. That was his barrier. We all have barriers. Some of us, have physical barriers where we can't walk, or we can't see or we can't hear. There's other people with barriers that, that stop us from being able to accomplish. I mean, I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be, on Saturday nights at the Apollo on stage telling, doing comedy. But my barriers are I'm not funny and I'm not really good at writing songs. So those are my barriers, along with I can't, spell. But we refuse to label my son as disabled. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, sweetheart. Speaking to Gemma or anyone else who may be receiving, benefits, disability benefits, or some kind of, pension or whatever it might be. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just for us and our family, we refuse to label him. And they keep on telling us that we're nuts to just take the money and put it in a bank account and leave it to, it'd be a nice nest egg for him when he's 18. Nope. Because there's a lot more along with that than once you label someone here in America as disabled like that. They become they're on every goddamn list then, for medical to social to you name it. You don't want to get that title. Sorry, but it's true. I'm successful at what I do, Zelda, because I work at it. And when I don't have the answers, I know how to reach out to people who do have the answers. I'm never going to be, the next YouTube rising star, because I don't want to be the next YouTube rising star. Along with success on YouTube or on social media comes a lot more, than people realize. A lot more hate, a lot more frustration, a lot more demand to toe the line, to kiss YouTube's ass. And I have a real problem with some of the stupid things that they do, like channel memberships. That's just the latest. They're screwing that up. A lot of people who are channel members are really frustrated, and a lot of people who are not. And you keep on seeing, member only, in green underneath the video. Why are they pushing those out, channel memberships, to people who are not members of that channel? Why? Why would you ever do that? That is just ridiculous. Hey, look, I'm just on YouTube and I want to watch the next video, or I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling for the next video to watch. And then you see one that you like and you click on it and it tells you it's behind a paywall. That makes the creator look like a money grubber. They're just out for the money. I mean, we all have to eat, right? But it sends the wrong message to people. But they're really screwing that up. And they have no plans to fix it because they're making money at it. Because every cent that comes in, YouTube takes a cut. Every dollar, they take for every dollar, they take 40 cents right off the top. Of every dollar. Super chat, super thanks, stickers, channel memberships, anything that runs through their system, they take 40 cents of every dollar. Drop it in their giant billion-dollar piggy bank. And then they have all the advertisements that are out there. They get paid at one level to have it pushed out to 10,000 views or 1 million views for their ads. They get this much, and they pay the creator that much per view. Most YouTube creators make 0.8 of a cent. 0.8 of a cent to per view. You got to get millions of views on content to make any serious money, any real money. I mean, think about that. 0.8 of a cent. for 1,000 views. Think about that, man. Do that calculation in your head. Not much for 1,000. What if you're a smaller YouTuber than me? You ain't gonna make money. You fought to get monetized. To be able to get AdSense and qualify for it and keep it. Because once you get it, they can take it away from you. Oh boy, they can. Trust me on that. I know a lot of people who got to 1,000, got that 4,000 hours, got through the program, and then they fell below it, and YouTube yanked that monetization right back from them and said, well, when you get back up over that 4,000 watch hours and that 1,000 subscribers, we'll give it back to you. And they do, but they'll yank it away just as fast as they gave it to you. There's nothing out there like YouTube. As much as I don't agree with some of the things that they do, there isn't a single platform out there that creators can move to that gets the views, the traffic, or that has the potential to earn. Nothing. There are a lot of smaller companies out there, a lot of smaller venues. I mean, even the larger ones that are out there, like your TikToks and your Instagrams and Patreon, they don't have the traffic that's even remotely close to the traffic and the amount of eyes that you can get on YouTube. Not even close. I mean, TikTok is right up there with shorts videos, videos that are less than 2 minutes. Instagram, nope. They're always going to be third, fiddle. Facebook, they're trying. They're trying. I mean, they're all trying, but Facebook is trying to take a slice of that pie. I think the last time I looked, they had 40% when it comes to videos, in monetization, 40% of the total. But YouTube still has 60+% of the eyes and the traffic and the monetization value. Well, thank you for the super chat, Gemma. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's page 2 news there. Do not forget, tomorrow we are doing trivia on the Amityville Horror. Tomorrow. That is at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 5 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Central, 7 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone, and 12 midnight in the UK. Again, tomorrow night's trivia is all on the Amityville Horror. The crimes that were committed in the home, not the actual diving into, is the place haunted, and all that. We already did our Halloween special the week before. So, again, thank you everyone for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow for trivia, the crime, not the haunting. That's true, Kitty Coo. The crimes, the Defoe. We're answering questions about the crimes, not the haunting. But everyone, thank you again, Francie, and I hope you sit down and think about if another name that if you want to get rid of that T5J at the end of your name, and if you go back again through the comment section, I gave you the 7 steps to how to change the name in case you forgot. And that goes for anyone else. You can follow those 7 steps and you can change your YouTube name to anything. Keep in mind, it may already be used. So, and whatever you do not change your name, your YouTube name, to something of a religious leader. Don't change it to Mohammed. All right, I'm putting that out there, Mike. And for other people, don't change it to Mohammed. Don't change it to Jesus Christ. Don't change it to my Lord and Savior. Trust me, when I tell you those names are taken and they will flag them. And likewise, do not pick a screen name you want on YouTube that is vulgar. Like, I'm not going to give you an example, but you can figure that out. All right. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you again shortly. Bye.